Hello my fellow travelers, my name is Kevin, and I'm here to give you all a quick tour of Bletchley Park and its history. So being that most of us are poli-sci majors, we can all agree that our line of work benefits from data analysis. If we want to know who will win the presidency, we look at polling data from both past and current elections to get an idea of who can win. Or if we want to know how economically stable a country is, we look to its banking, GDP, and export data to get a sense of what's going on over there. It's safe to say that information plays a vital role to us, for our job is to interpret that data and then give advice to our leaders or bosses based off what we found. So what better place to use that data than to undermine your enemies in armed conflict? That was the motivation for Bletchley Park's existence, for the UK wants to use the power of intelligence gathering to get one over the Axis. While UK's intelligence technically started in World War I in the form of radio operators and spies eavesdropping on people, it would take off in World War II thanks to the improvement of technology. But let's get back to Bletchley, shall we? So this complex was originally just another mansion for some rich lord and his family to do rich people things, but once they died, their property became free real estate, and the head of the UK's Secret Intelligence Service saw how conveniently placed it was to practically every important city nearby, and snatched it right up. Initially, the mansion that appears when you Google the place was to serve as the main workstation for the SIS and their staff of codebreakers, but as more information came in, they needed to get more sophisticated technology to solve that information, and that led to more workers being brought in, and that led to Bletchley Park being expanded to accommodate everything that they needed. That's where we get to the most important places on our tour, the huts. Specifically huts 3, 4, 6, 8, and 11. The reason being that huts 3 and 6 focus on Army and Air Force intelligence because we wanted to undermine their positioning, and 4 and 8 were focused on naval intelligence because their U-boats kept sinking our dang battleships. The general work pipeline went as followed. Radio operators across the UK and Europe, called Y receivers, would hijack the radio lines and listen to what the Nazis were transmitting and wrote it down to send back to Bletchley. Once there, the decoded messages would go to huts 6 and 8, who did their best to decrypt them using either their brains or the new computers that they built to get it done faster, and from there, those decrypts would then go to huts 3 and 4, where translators and analysis would read the messages and discern what is important from least important. This would then go to a group of military or naval advisors who, with their knowledge of war tactics and current events, would turn the information into orders or updates for the various branches of the military to follow. Now, Hut 11 is where things get fun, because this is where most of the computers were stored. In Hut 11, personnel were trained on how to use these things as well. But let's take a second to stop and imagine how crazy it must have felt for someone who didn't know what a computer was, let alone know that it existed, to then be expected to learn it and then use it in such a short time. Ridiculous, right? But anyways, these computers were used to speed up the code breaking process, for every second was valuable to the war effort. The two main types of computers used were called the Bomb and the Colossus, and each had their own codes to decipher. Each of these devices can still be seen at the park today, so that's something to keep an eye out for while we're there. But trust me, you can't miss them, because just look at them. Look how insane these things are. Look at all this. All these wires, these spinning drums. It took 250 people just to run 10 of the Colossus computers. That's 25 years for the single computer. There were over 200 bomb devices, yet staff still had to queue up to use them. Ugh. Anyway, rant over. Moving on. While the computers were impressive, the things that these computers were made to solve were even more impressive. The Enigma machine truly was a marvel of electrical engineering at the time that could encode a message 150 million times over. That is no joke, that is an actual statistic. This gave the Nazis a sense of security that their operation couldn't be read by anyone even if they had a copy of the device. Yet they done goofed up by using similar starting positions when they sent messages to each other. It's still hard to understand how they solved this, but the easiest way to explain it was that the bomb computer took advantage of common words like weather, and the fact that a letter type would never type itself. So by focusing on the repeated word and knowing that the first letter type was out of the question, the Allies just programmed their computer to brute force the code based on that criteria, and after some time they would get the setting needed to decode the message. But hey, this isn't even the hardest encryption device that they were dealing with. Remember Colossus? It was meant to decode this nonsense. Yep, that thing was like Enigma on crack, and it was used to send messages between Hitler and his higher officials among the Axis. Kinda gave y'all the condensed version because this video needs to be short, but rest assured that any question that you may have, the park can answer, and you can see all the Enigma and Lorenz devices that you want while we're there. But enough about the machines. Who were the people running them, you may ask? Well, let's talk about them now. So, just to get this out of the way, who here has watched The Imitation Game? Raise your hands. Okay. Alright. You in the back? Okay, I see. Well, while the movie was good upon initial viewing, further investigation shows that authenticity was sacrificed for that sweet drama. So let's start with Alan Turing, the gay genius who helped design the bomb machine. He was known by many as a shy yet silly man with a sense of humor rather than some misunderstood loner that the movies tried to show. But more importantly, he did not create the bomb by himself. The bomb was first designed by Polish cryptanalysis, and Turing made some adjustments to rule out certain combinations, and he did that work alongside Gordon Welchman. Welchman was more of the man with the plan, having the confidence and charisma to organize his team, and was responsible for recruiting other codebreakers. His contribution to the bomb machine were modifications like Turing, and he pushed to improve the infrastructure of the park to run more bombs once their version was up and running. The man even went to the United States to help us set up our own intelligence projects. Beyond those two, we had others like Bill Tutt and Tommy Flowers, who designed the Colossus machine to break the Lorenz code. Yet, while their contributions were impressive, it wasn't just those contributions alone that made Bletchley work. The park's success came from the sum of everyone, ranging from military officers to academics to civilian clerks who all worked around the clock to decode those messages. And even much of the staff was women, many of whom had to learn how to operate, build, and maintain these computers along with decoding most of the messages once the cipher was solved. For most personal accounts, everything went fine and people got along. While the work was extremely important, most didn't let it get to their head and treated it like it was some kind of office job. The sad thing though was that everyone was sworn to secrecy because of the nature of this job, and it wasn't until the late 70s when the government allowed Bletchley's existence to be declassified to the world. That's why many don't know about the story of Bletchley, and to a greater extent, the story of how modern intelligence agencies came to be. But now, we can learn about their story thanks to places like the park itself being open to the public to show just how valuable and successful intelligence is when used in practice. It really goes to show that knowledge is power, huh?